This is kind of the biggest thing for us that I think we do feel a lot of challenge in this reality, but what we get to start to realize is that our true gift in this reality is the witnessing. And when we witness, most times it's just through our eyes or some part of our senses becoming aware of something that if we're quick enough to remember, all we really need to do is hand it off to the celestial courts. That's it. And have an intention of love that it be dealt with in the highest order. I will say though, contracts, bindings, anything like that, you have to verbalize that you're done with it and that you are commanding it to be complete. You can't just say, oh, here it is. And then they'll be like, great, there it is. This is kind of the thing that I know a lot of us don't like to hear, but they remind me all the time. We are not here to do the work for you. You are us. You're here to do the work. And it's not that crazy once we realize, oh, okay, all we really need to do is come in here, witness it, acknowledge it, hand it off, and then say, pull it from me now. You've just initiated the command. You've just initiated, I'm done with this. You've just initiated, I do not consent. You just initiated, I am sovereign. And it begins to lift it. And unfortunately, I don't think we'll be done doing this work while we're in this body. I think there's just a lot. We're not that far out of the yuga cycle. So there's a lot, and we're sensitive enough to be aware of it, to process it, to move it. What I will say though is that from personal experience, I really watch that it's not personal so much anymore. When you feel the stuff, when you notice the triggers, when you maybe sense things, it gets quicker and easier. And then what we just generally get called to do is, if you are adept or something, that this is something that you resonate with, that many times you'll be called to pass this on, to awaken others to this possibility of how to do this, so that more of us are just unhinging. And so this is going to lead me to a little bit of what I've been kind of going a little bit deeper in. And this is the 5 subtle bodies. And as I continue to dive into this more, I'm going to keep sharing this with you guys. And this is the idea of these 5 subtle bodies that really kind of resonate with the Egyptian spirituality and the workings of many of the shamans and the indigenous tribes and our indigenous ancestors upon the planet, who were aware of all of our different layers of our aura and our body, our multi-dimensional aspect of who we are. And so there are, through many of the different teachings, the idea of these 5 subtle bodies. And that these 5 subtle bodies, whether we look at it through, say, the Hindu perspectives, whether or not we look at it through the Egyptian perspectives, or even some of the Native American perspectives, that these subtle bodies are all based on the physicality. So the most dense and the most base of the bodies, obviously, is our physical body. And as we get the ability to really connect, I want to share one screen with you guys. So for those of you that I will get to see on Monday, you're going to see a lot of this again, but I just want to share a little bit. Tabs on here. This way. I want to share this particular screen right here, and I will also talk about some of the 5 bodies. So basically, there's the gross material body, the causal body, the astral body, and then there is the very etheric, there is the very spiritualized body. So we're going to really be kind of going through this through the Egyptian or the teachings of even the spiritual bodies through the 5 ways of Sekhmet. And the gross physical body is Ahu. It is a machine, basically. The body is seen as a bio machine, if you will, that is not really any different than an animalistic form, except for how the higher bodies or the subtle bodies interface with it and guide it and assist it. So this is kind of the key within there, is that there is the perspective that we have this physical form, but unless it is learned how to interface with all of the other bodies, then we truly are ignorant. We truly are just something that is going to be basically be living in a state of like sleepwalking. And really, once it perishes, it perishes. There won't be really anything that perpetuates on with it. The next body that and I'm probably going to just talk about the first three. The next body is something called the double. So when we talk about doing astral projection, doing the work at night to go out of body experience, many times people talk about the light body or that double. There is kind of the energy of the Ka, and think about Ka within the idea of Merkaba, that the Ba is actually going to be considered the soul, the Mer, the vehicle, the Ka, or the Ka, the body here. But the Ka is the mind. The Ka is the consciousness of our mental body. And it really actually is, they call it a mirror because it mirrors our physical body. And think about it. We're all sitting here chatting in our head, but I'm going to tell you, think about your body right now. Click into your body. Be in your body. There's a distinct shift when you're existing in your head and running around in your thoughts and who you think you are. And there is an absolute distinct shift when you come back into mindfulness within your body. I just want you guys to take a couple moments to just notice that. We're talk, we get in our head, and then all of a sudden somebody says, oh, what's your breathing rhythm like? Oh, what is your foot feeling like right now? Oh, how's your heartbeat doing? You literally can feel yourself click out of your head and become present with your body. So within these spiritualized practices, it's the ability to understand that the you that's running around in your head is not the body, and vice versa, but you're actually here to learn how to work them, and that it's actually this Ka, which is the mind, that is the most distorted field. And it is the place that we want to learn to master, because when we mistake it for the body, we begin to create a absolute destruction to our life, and our body will never have the opportunity then to evolve into all 5 bodies. In order for us to evolve through the transition of death by holding on to our consciousness in through our soul plasma field. And so each of these kind of has a seal between them. I'm going to have so much fun with you guys kind of going over this, because this completely matches the work that we do with our star maps, our astrology charts, and how the archetypes of the planets work with us. We're seeing how all of these really are saying the same things, but with just different perspectives for us to understand them. And that the third body that we have here is, they call it the Hedit, but it's also considered the shadow. And this is a place that was really something that was about the unconscious mind, or the subconscious mind, if you will, and that it actually has the best ability to connect to the physical body. So imagine this, you guys, as we talk about our subconscious mind is more connected to what our heartbeat is doing, to what our hormones are doing in our body. They are more linked together than our mind is with either one of them. So I'm giving that invitation right now. And that within this, that if we started to learn how to work with this subconscious part, that it's actually the place where we can find our shadows. And just for you guys, you know, just as an awareness, this is something I'm going to be really correlating to the planetary body of Uranus, which is our long-term memories. It is our deep subconscious. It is our deep Akashic library records. And so when we actually learn how to get in there, the initial thing that happens through awakening processes is what? All the shadows got to come to the surface. So the moment the shadows come, now we know we can go like, oh, okay, great. Where's the point of origin? What lifetime did this start with? Who made a contract with who? What happened where? Where did this come from? So now what are we doing? We are bringing conscious awareness to the deep subconscious in order to find the places of origin, because the deep subconscious is just long-term memories that we have forgotten. And that when we can come back into remembering them, we can actually see where the incidents happened, where the energy came from. And now from this conscious, mindful perspective, we can now say, does this work for me? Is this in alignment with my higher self? Now that I am at this level of awareness and consciousness, is this something I'm choosing? Or am I going to be taking this to the spiritual court? And am I clearing this and deleting this permanently and irrevocably? And many times that's what we're doing. So again, this is the place where it's vital for us to work with, because when we start to learn how to actually tap into this place, this is a place of spontaneous healing. This is a place where hypnotic suggestions truly embed and work for us. And so as we have this perspective within here, each of these bodies has seals. And I'm not going to go into too much in this, but I do want to just let you open your imagination to all the places you've heard about the seals being opened, the doorways being that you have to make it through the threshold, that you have to go through the passageway, that you have to make it through some sort of barrier in order to either unify, awaken, or for the next revelation to happen. And I'm not using that word accidentally. Even if you look at revelations in the Bible, what is it all about? It's about all of the seals being broken for all of the channels of awakening to happen. And as these seals break open, what we're doing is now we're opening passageways between the body layers. And so within the Egyptian perspective, what this is that if you can begin to unify these bodies, that now what the bodies have the opportunity to do is you're starting to not only unify and bring them together as one, but now you're breaking the seal of where forgetfulness happens. So let me just bring this perspective. It is this very body right here, the Hadith body, which is the subconscious body, that after death, it will hold itself for a moment, but then it will deteriorate, dissolve, and go away, and also die very quickly. Now, if this body dies, after we transition out of the body, we have now just had a regular death again. We have now just died and gone into the world of amnesia, where we have not connected our memories back to our library bank. Therefore, we're just going to return back as our soul essence and energy without our consciousness of our memories or who we are. And so then what do? We come back again and we're disconnected. The seal is still in place, and we don't remember who we are the next incarnational cycle through. This body right here is exactly the same as when you wake up at night from dreaming and you've had crazy dreams and you're sitting there trying to remember your dreams and it feels like they're just disappearing right out of your head. That's you almost in a way watching that Hadith body dissolve out of your ability to connect and tap into it. I just want to give that as a metaphor. That if you then kind of look at these other bodies, I just want to show the other two. From this perspective is going to be the Ku, the magical, which is the fourth and the most subtle of the five bodies. And this is really a body that the only way we would develop this body and this body's awareness in this lifetime is through a very purposeful spiritualized path. You have to work at it. You have to intend it. You have to make a relationship with it. You have to awaken it. You have to work with it. And we're going to be talking about this specifically through this next course, specifically with the idea of working with the Kundalini. What are these initiation phases that our archetypes of the planets have calculated into our cycles of life that are specifically designed for us to have better connection to this Kahu body right here, in order for us to actually have specific times in our life where we're going to be more prone to having a connection with it, to even learn that we could have a relationship with it. And so within this is a spiritualized world. This is the world where we're starting to step into the ideas of bliss, of the 0 point field, of stepping out of all of the drama and trauma that humanity believes is real from the mental plane. But from this spiritualized plane, we already are starting to disconnect to it, because we're beginning to see the infinite cosmic forces at play through many life cycles and through many, many species. And so that from there, the last and the most subtle of the bodies is the Sahu body, which is awakened in consciousness by following, again, the spiritual path. By having integrated all four of the other bodies, we become starting now to fully actualize into this fifth body. And this is truly those that are on paths of wanting to really master the transition process. And you've heard me say this so many times, but I just keep saying it because this is my passion. And I do believe this is probably where I'm going to start to evolve the direction of what I share. And that is the importance of living one's life in preparation for our true birth, which is the transition process from when we die out of the physical body and are birthed into our spiritual body. And that this is something that used to be our living way of life, and it's just been distorted and disconnected for a while on this planetary sphere. But that when we learn to reconnect them again, then we start to actually have the experience of not losing ourselves from incarnation to incarnation. And notice I said incarnation, not reincarnation. It's very much a choice at this point in time. And so I wanted to share one thing, and this is from the Cosmic Moo books by James Churchward. And these, I do have some of these available on the books and PDF section for you guys if you are interested. But this is from I think it's from the one called Cosmic Symbols. And this one is called Moo's Cosmogonic Diagram. And I'm going to just kind of read this and describe some of it here for you guys, because this is really, really special. If you guys have ever even seen, if you've seen different things like Hecate's wheel, different things when you look at a labyrinth or spirals, or many of the ways in which the stone circles and things like this have been created, you're going to see that a lot of this is actually stemming from this teaching here within Moo's cosmogonic diagram here. And so this was one of their images that represented how we get back to source. And so this was held. So we also had that talk a while back, and if anybody wants to reference it, it was called the Eye of Ra. And the Eye of Ra was a position, it was a title, and it was a title held by beings like Isis, Hathor, Sekhmet, And the Eye of Ra is a title for the holder of the wisdom of Ra, or the sun. And therefore, the journey or the path of someone who was the Eye of Ra was to be the wisdom keeper in translating the cosmology and the wisdom of the sun, or the solar rishi, and translating it back into the consciousness of humanity so that humanity would remember how to get back home. So I'm going to read this. And so this is really the diagram that represented this. This is also, you could see this as part of the representation of the solar disk, or even the eye, as you can see it in the middle, that was over the head of Hathor, Isis, the Sekhmet, all that solar disk that many of these divine beings held over their head. So this is a circle with two crossed and interwoven triangles. We see this as a Merkaba, the Star of David. These being interwoven or interlaced, these triangles form but one figure. These two triangles are encoded within a second circle, thus leaving 12 divisions. So we see already the energy of 12, the 12 houses, the 12 zodiacs. So as we start to get to look at this, we have the 12 tribes. We're already starting to see the importance of certain patterns and sacred geometries within creation. Beyond this circle is a third, leaving a space between the two. And on the very outside, so all these scallops on the outside are these petals. They look like flower petals. All the scallops is a ribbon which has 8 divisions. Let's see. So on the outside of this third circle are the 12 scallops, and falling from the outside of the scallops is a ribbon which has 8 divisions. So these are these 4 looking different rays that come, but you can see there's kind of a barrier that separates them in the middle. So they are counting this as 8 divisions. So I'm just going to tie this in. This is going to be very similar, you guys, to when you hear about in the Buddhic traditions of the eightfold path. So this is pretty profound. The central circle is a picture of the sun and the symbol of the deity whose abode is the heaven. The 12 divisions formed by the crossing of the 2 triangles are the gates to heaven where dwells the Heavenly Father. So you hear that word gates. This is again is why I love human design, because it's all about what are these gates that are bringing us back to our divine essence. These gates symbolize virtues, and the 12 great earthly virtues from which man must first possess before he can enter the gates. Among them, such virtues such as love, hope, charity, chastity, faith, etc. Love stands at the very top of the list. The space between the second and the third circles is the world beyond, which the soul must pass through to reach the gates of heaven. So this is actually very physical. This is actually going to tie into the teachings that we've been talking about, Cygnus, or moving through, when you move through the gates after death, when you're following through and they're moving through the gates, say through Sirius, through Orion, and then moving through on towards to the north. These are the different gates from which we must pass through in order to reach the gates of heaven. The 12 scallops on the outside of the outer circle are the gates to the world beyond and symbolize the 12 great earthly temptations which must be overcome by the material body before the soul can pass through these gates to the world beyond. Remember that the material body, the physical body, the base of the 5 subtle bodies, they're saying we have to also include it. We can't just treat it as a machine or a vehicle. We can't just use it any way we want and live from our mind and our head and not care what happens to it. We literally have to include it in the process. or else we can't pass through these gates to the world beyond. And the reason for that is because our body is most connected to that third layer, which is the subconscious, which is actually where all the shadow is. And so if we live from our mind, we will never be able to integrate the two in order to purge out the shadow, or what they call the base earthly temptations, which need to be overcome by the material body before the soul can pass through these gates to the world beyond. The ribbon with the 8 divisions symbolizes the 8 roads, the 8-fold path, the 8 roads to heaven, and tells what man's actions and thoughts must be in order to ascend the gates to the world beyond. I absolutely love that. I think it's such a powerful perspective to look into that. We're definitely going to be diving into this so much deeper. But I wanted to start to give the perspective for you guys of the energy of these subtle bodies, these 5 subtle bodies, because as we get to understand them, that all of the practices, whether you are choosing yoga practices, breathwork practices, body practices, just mindful, whatever path you're choosing, it doesn't matter. All of these, though, are going to need to encompass purging the shadow. We can't skip past the shadow work. We can't just skip past and go in to these high vibrational energies and just say, oh, the body doesn't matter anymore, because this is really something that happens quite a bit for those that are connected to this information and want to ascend or work with higher vibrational energies. We're always looking for shortcuts. We're always looking for the way to just get right out into connecting with my guides. What is my soul's purpose? Like, what am I doing here? Like, who am I? And we always can sense ourselves trying to move up, out. And a lot of times when we talk about our higher self, where are we? We're talking about up or out. And in truth, I've been really wanting to promote the invitation that when you think of your higher self, put your hands over your heart. Come right here. Higher self, higher self, higher self, higher self. And that our body is more connected to the infinite intelligence of the universe than our mind will ever be. And if we can start to surrender our mind to our higher mind and begin to listen to the subtle messages within the body, what is it that my body is speaking, saying, revealing? And allow ourselves to meditate up into the subconscious mind. That these are going to be some of the hypnotic types of things, like suggestion work or invitations, again, to imagine some place in the body that's aching or hurting or maybe calling for attention, and we slow down and we tune in through our subconscious and we begin communicating with it. What is it that you want me to know? What are you revealing to me? What hurt are you feeling that I have not recognized or listened to? Whose voice are you speaking? Are you a pain or hurt or trauma from me in this lifetime? Or are you a voice of the ancestor that is coming through to be spoken now? How can I be in service to you? And within this, we can actually evolve this practice into all of the amazing things that hypnosis actually gives us the capability to do, the healing capabilities. Or if you can start to link your subconscious with your body so intricately that you could actually communicate to cells and different aspects of the body to heal themselves, to shrink tumors, to make things happen in the way that you want them to. But the only way to understand that is actually to first and foremost get past that layer of the mind, past that layer within there. And then as we begin to do this, then we start to tap into the subtle bodies, the heavenly bodies, if you will. And that within that, we start to now bring in that the first three bodies are the ones we primarily have to work with, because unless we start to unify them, we can connect to the top two bodies, but the top two subtle bodies won't have a way to anchor in to the physical body. So we'll still be segmented and separated. And the reason why this is because we haven't made the space for them to exist. And so part of making that space is actually utilizing the process of these paths of virtues, where we start to attune to our shadows to overcome the lower desires or the lower things that are holding the physical realm back. And we can then begin to surrender our body to our higher self in that process. That within this was the teachings that were from the motherland of Mu. It was always about how, no matter what, when you come into physicality, there is a level of separation that happens. And so our entire life was designed through teachings, through practices, through remembrance of how to get back to that connection. And that when we lived our life, the more we lived it in service to honor the ray of light, the sun, the cosmic creation, energy, that the more that we would dedicate our life to that energy, and that we would live our entire life in service to creating this body as a better and better vehicle, so that when we transitioned out of the body, we already had reconnected and recreated that connection. So there was no question, where are you going? What is happening? What am I going to do? What's going to happen on the other side? Oh my goodness, there was no question of the other side, because you've been being with it, knowing it, reacquainting yourself with it, reconnecting it. Your entire life was that journey. So when that moment came, there was that sense of know thyself. So that's just an invitation for you guys as we get to just to end with a really beautiful little meditation here. I do want to ask permission of Veronica. Would it be all right if I share the video that you shared with me? Okay, beautiful. So I'm going to share this with you guys. What I'll do is I'll probably let it just kind of go on repeat as we just go through a beautiful meditation. I, again, highly recommend any of you that feel guided to connect with Veronica, and you're going to see why this right here is just such a magical gift. And that as we are going through this process work, that part of our connection to our subtle bodies, to this reconnection to these subtle energies, is we start to connect to the subtle bodies of Earth Mother, the micro, the macro. And for any of you that ever if you've ever read any of Montauk Chia's books, he's a Tibetan, or no, sorry, not a Tibetan, a Thai individual. He has, I think, places in Chiang Mai that he teaches a lot of this work, but this is book after book after book he's written about things called the microcosm of the body. And all of these are very subtle energies and the orgasmic energies of the body, and how to develop, and breathing exercise, sitting exercises. He's quite a character. He does actually have videos on YouTube if you ever feel like watching him. But he's someone that I was drawn to with the work around Chini Seng, which is the abdominal work to release a lot of the traumas from the abdomen, where we store almost everything in there from many lifetimes, honestly, and how to actually promote. It was one of the three major energies for healing through even traditional Chinese medicine. So just to kind of give you guys, if you want something physical to work with, and he has pretty neat books and things like that. But the idea, again, is coming from the word microcosm, that the idea of know thyself is to realize that we are part of the macro and the micro, that as above, so below. So the microcosm from this perspective is your body. And being that we are part of the body of Earth, that we can start to see her subtle layers. And her subtle layers are fairies, elementals, the woodland beings, the animals, the orbs, and the lights, and all of these different energies that are incredibly divine, real beings. So I'm going to share with you something that Veronica put together as we go through this last bit. And I'm just going to invite you for this time to just have a connection to your body. So just inviting everybody to take some nice deep breaths in. And as you take some nice deep breaths in, just please just come to the idea of body, body, body. Be present to your body. Be aware of your body. That as you get to sense these images and pictures, there's such an emanation that comes through them of our divine cosmic beings that are existing right here with us. And that as we begin to attune to our subtle bodies, that we are awakening ourselves to be a part of their world and inviting them to be a part of our world. That these beings exist everywhere around us. And that the only way that they can begin to even communicate with us is if we can find a way to get out of our mind and come back into the body and come back into our subconscious, so that we can then create the mind as a tool for the higher self. As you allow yourself to take some deep breaths, I invite you to talk to your body. Body, here I am. I'm sorry that I forget about you most of the day. I'm sorry that I ignore you. I'm sorry for many of the things that have happened to you in this lifetime. I'm sorry that you are still holding so many records and memories that I haven't been able to understand or decipher. But in this moment, I come to you and ask to open myself to a sacred relationship of living this life in harmony with you. That you are connected right now to one of the most incredible creations that Source has created. And that as you connect to this body, you can realize that as much as you might be able to label different things within your body, that there's no amount of intelligence on this planet that knows why the body works or how the heart beats. No intelligence on this planet has even figured out the true essence of gravity. And yes, through some of the esoteric, spiritualized evolutions of our consciousness, we are coming closer and closer to it. But that in truth, how does your spirit animate the breath? How does your star fire create a spark in your heart that animates life in this incredible form. Every mystery of the universe exists right inside of you. Find God right inside of you. And as you have that experience, just make the invitation to face all of the shadows and the places that have been stored within this beautiful container, that this container, as much as it holds all of the wisdom of the infinite creator, it also holds all of the galactic and Akashic records of every tragedy that has ever happened against creation. And inside of you, you get to bring the gentleness of love and neutrality of your heart into these places so that they are not hidden in the dark anymore, and you can surrender them to the higher council, surrender them to the source field. And through your infinite intelligence and your own sovereign directive, you can command that you do not consent to anything disrupting the organic life flow of this divine body. And that this is your divine right to explore it more. We have barely even awakened to the potential of what this body can do. And it's your gift to be the guardian of this temple. And as you allow yourself to just be with this energy, just going to take a couple moments of silence for each of us to just breathe with our body and dive deep into that world. In the last couple of moments, the invitation is to really pay attention to your breath. It is the primary tool that is used to move past the gateways, to open the seals, to flush out the chambers, to light up your mansions. The breath is the vehicle through which power moves through your body. It is pretty much the number one tool to spiritualizing this vehicle in this form. And that in this very moment, we proclaim to our higher self our willingness to be more present in the moment, to be more present in the physical form, to be more present on the path. And that every day more and more, we will bring our subtle bodies into physical form in order to be one with all creation. And that feels so good. With so much love, as we bring this beautiful session to a close.
And so it